Hello, it is Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to my New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It's Wednesday today, so we'll have a midweek puzzle, midweek difficulty roughly. Maybe a little tougher, maybe a little easier than that. We'll just have to see. But first, I do want to address a whole bevy of comments from yesterday's puzzle. And actually, before that, I want to remind you about the existence of the Patreon campaign. If you head over to patreon.com/dailysolve, you will find a way to support this series going forward. I appreciate everyone who's done so. There are quite a few bonus videos up there at this point for you to watch, as well as soon, in the next day or so, I'll be putting up a poll to ask people at the benefactor tier which design they would prefer for the mug that they're going to get for pledging in that tier. And I've designed 3 options, and we'll see if people prefer one of them or don't like any of them at all. We'll have to see. So if you're a benefactor in the Patreon, please look out for that in the next day or so. And please do respond to the poll so that I do get a sense of people's preferences. Okay, let's, I'll cut that off there because there are quite a few comments to read. So let's get started with that. We have a comment from Kathy Swope who says, Big Sur, which is the area in California spelled B-I-G space S-U-R. Big Sur, the rugged stretch between ocean and mountain from north of Los Angeles to south of San Francisco, derives from the early settlers' name for the unexplored area, El Sur Grande, the Big South. It's so interesting that they would combine Sur, south, with big, in English, big. Big Sur, so that's where that comes from. And Circadian Wolf, regarding Eris, the Greek goddess of discord, E-R-I-S. Eris is today almost solely known for her role in starting the Trojan War. According to the most famous version of the story, Eris is denied an invitation to a wedding on Olympus, and in retaliation, she throws among the party guests a golden apple with a note that it is for the fairest one. Here, Athena and Aphrodite each claim the apple, and when Paris, Prince of Troy, is asked to make an unbiased judgment, each goddess offers him something related to their divine role. Paris chooses Aphrodite's bribe, which is to give him the most beautiful human woman in the world, Helen, abducting her from the position as the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, and thus leading to Menelaus summoning his allies to attack Troy and retrieve Helen. Like many stories in Greek mythology, none of the female characters are treated well. Yes, now that that's been recounted to me, I actually very much remember that, but I absolutely wouldn't have remembered the particular deity involved there. Tyler Caldwell has a very an appropriately adorable response to a bit of decor, which was the clue for the answer acute accent, which I explained as being an example of the acute accent above the E in decor. But Tyler posits that this could also be interpreted as a space cute space accent, as in accent furniture, a cute piece of accent furniture. That is a wonderful interpretation, and I enjoy it. I wanted to pass it along. And finally, speaking of interpretations, we have a comment from Craig who answers my question. What do we think the grid looks like in yesterday's video? If you've not seen yesterday's video or you don't remember what the grid looks like, go back to Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, and sort of an odd pattern of black cells, and I wasn't sure what it was. Craig says, great video as always, fairly sure the grid is a top-down view of a spider. It has 8 legs, etc., pointing to the Charlotte's Web clue, etc. And of course, Charlotte's Web is a classic children's book about, in part, a spider. And Harish Julapali replies to say, the black squares looked like a bug to me, maybe based on Charlotte's Web. So we have some agreement there. But then MS comes in with a twist and says, in the New York Times wordplay column, it was stated that because the themed answers and revealer were of mismatched length, 10, 10, 11, and 3 letters each, placing those answers in a rotationally symmetrical grid was impossible, as you need to have pairs of answers with the same length. I think this is the only reason for the grid being constructed with vertical symmetry as opposed to rotational symmetry. And so this is because, in part, answers involving the different Bronte sisters were of different length. And so that makes sense that they couldn't fit within a rotationally symmetrical grid in which mirrored answers, of course, because the grid is symmetrical about that rotational axis, would have to themselves be the same length. But all of that said, Dylan has a more interesting interpretation, and possibly one that is even more correct in its beauty here. Dylan says, "To me, the grid looks like a face that is both crying and smiling." The theme tie-in. Smiles and tears are so alike with me, they are neither of them confined to any particular feelings. I often cry when I am happy and smile when I am sad. Anne Bronte, the tenant of Wildfell Hall. So there we go. There is a poetic answer to what this grid looks like and a beautiful tie-in to the theme. Okay, there were actually several additional comments on yesterday's puzzle, but this has gone on quite long enough. So I am going to move on to today's puzzle, which is a Wednesday crossword constructed by David W. Tufts, edited, as always, by Will Shorts. Are we ready to get started? I'm going to say at this point we are. Okay. Museum wings. This could be L's, which is a phrase that gets used to refer to building extensions. I think because they can often be sort of visually represented by a letter L. There's sort of extensions that come out like that. Let me know if you have better interpretation of that. But that's a guess. So let's take a look at the crosses. Here we have 1962 Paul Anka hit. I don't really know Paul Anka very well. Yeah, I just don't. Let's keep going. Got hitched. Could be married. That would make L's wrong, obviously. Handsome trait. Question mark there. I'm gonna get rid of that. I don't think I know yet. Wonder Woman actress, good dote. It's Gal Gadot, I believe. Drink flavored with juniper berries is gin. Gin actually derives from, I believe, Dutch for the word for juniper. All right, here. Capital of Ethiopia, is it Addis Ababa? And let out a notch, perhaps. Let out a notch, perhaps. Is this something to do with altering clothing or something? Not really sure. Got hitched. Who's your favorite roguish Star Wars character? Han blank. Han or Lando, maybe? Lando Calrissian from The Empire Strikes Back? A root beer brand. There's a root beer brand called Dad's, so perhaps that is this one. Partner of born could be bread, as in born and bread. Here we have AOL, e.g. in brief. So AOL, for example, in brief. I don't think AOL is this anymore, but it was at one point an ISP, an internet service provider. So I'm going to guess that's what it is, even though it's not technically accurate now. Although maybe it is. Maybe AOL still provides internet access in some places. I don't know. Oh, let out a notch, perhaps. Right. This could be actually, indeed, to do with tailoring clothing. You could let trousers out a notch, so to speak, to loosen them, widen the waist a bit. Let's see, what do we have here? Got hitched. Oh, I see. Said I do. So, indeed, it is a way of saying got married. And again, I point this out often, but it bears repeating. Got hitched is a slightly slangy way to refer to getting married. And so said I do, it's not slang necessarily, but it's colloquial in the sense that literally saying I do doesn't make one married. This is used in a familiar way to refer to the whole process of getting married, which includes saying I do. So in that sense, these are both sort of slightly informal ways of referring to this process, and therefore the clue matches the answer. Okay, here's another got hitched. Oh, that's funny. Oh, and that undermines what I just said, which is that in this case it's married. But that's fair enough, because the cleverness here is that married and said I do match. And this lines up with someone's observation the other day, and I apologize, I don't remember your name, that whenever I go out of my way to make some long explanation about why something is correct, that will turn out to be wrong, which I'm sure is often true. A handsome trait. A handsome trait. I'm not immediately seeing that. One in Berlin. Oh. I would have assumed this to be eine. Oh, is it? Oh, is when it's the number, is it eins, maybe? And when it's the definite article, it's ein? Or indefinite article, I mean? Maybe. Oh, is this eso besa or something? Or beso? Yeah, beso. The Paul Anka song. I can't tell you why I remember that. It's very vague. Fixing a faucet or mending a fence, say. Either one of those could be an odd job. And one of several in a Venn diagram. Venn diagrams, you probably know this, but they're the way of displaying data that includes overlapping circles, and each one of those circles represents a set of a set of whatever the thing that's being discussed is, often, demographics of people, things like that. Oh, I see. Handsome trait is a silent D, which I suppose really depends on your dialect, honestly. I would imagine different English speakers do and don't pronounce the D in handsome. So it gets elided a bit. But I think I even sometimes softly pronounce that D. So that's a bit of an iffy clue, I think, to me. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about specifically what silent consonants mean linguistically, and perhaps that is accurate. But I wouldn't have thought the D in handsome is always silent for everybody. Anyway, to write down is to jot down. And as a reminder, when we see this parenthetical word here, what that means is that the part of the clue without the parentheses, the main part of the clue, is actually the clue. So write is what means jot. Write down doesn't mean jot, but write down does mean jot down. So we're applying the parenthetical part to not just the clue, but the answer as well. Just so it's a bit of extra help, essentially. Okay. In favor of could be for, as in for and against. Oh, and I didn't notice that we had another italicized clue, didn't we? Where was that? How am I not remembering what this was? There aren't very many answers I've filled in yet. I'm just going to have to look at all. Oh, here. Right. Who's your favorite roguish Star Wars character, Han or Lando? And I didn't observe that this is italicized, which means it's almost certainly part of a theme of the puzzle, the puzzle's shared subject matter, or commonality in some kind of wordplay around the clues. And here we see that Orlando, which is two words in the answer to the clue, is also a single word, in this case a proper noun, Orlando, the name of a city, in this case in Florida. So often the reason we have italicized clues is because we don't have a revealer clue, which is a sort of helper clue that explains how the different theme answers fit together. So sometimes we may or may not have that in this puzzle, but sometimes the reason we get these italicized is because we don't have a revealer, and therefore the italics end up being the signpost, the sort of individual little signposts that help us put the theme together. And here we have another one of these. How do you handle losing? Do you feel calm or? And so it looks like our theme is something around the word or, and then another word, and together, presumably, those will form a combined valid word. So that looks like that's what this is. So this could be, do you feel calm or, I don't know, angry or at orange? Could it be orange something? Or angered? Oh, orange, red. Could that be what this is? Do you feel calm or angered? And then the answer actually would be two more words. So the or becomes part of a word. I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the crosses. That seems a little bit dicey. Swallow could be eat. A credulous sort could be a naif, as opposed to, so someone is incredulous, they're disbelieving. Someone who's credulous is more trusting, and they hear something and they don't really think to question it. So someone who's naive, a naif. Pixar short about a dumpling boy. I don't remember if I saw this, but dumplings are bao. Chinese dumplings are bao, so maybe that's what it is. Most prone to preening could be the vainest, the person who is most vain. And southern part of South America, Patagonia. So maybe this is orange-red. Wow. Weapon with a heavy head. What is this? Fashion line. Oh, a seam on a article of clothing, for instance. Oh, a weapon with a heavy head is a mace. Right, yes, a mace. Large, heavy, sometimes spiked bit on the end. And a dramatic segment could be an act, one act of a play, for instance, a segment of a play. Here we have Genre of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. Never read N.K. Jemisin, but must be fantasy based on these crosses. And like a day off, ideally. Stress-free, one would hope. Or stressless, but stress-free I think is more commonly said. Flippers on a sea creature could be fins. And to register could be to enroll, as in for a class or something like that. Here we have hound sound. So a sound a dog makes is arf. That looks right. And Plaza de la Raza locale in SoCal. So that's, with SoCal, here we have an abbreviated form of Southern California, and that being abbreviated lets us know that the answer will also be abbreviated. So that makes me think in Southern California, this is probably East LA, East Los Angeles, but the abbreviated form. And another abbreviated clue, some OR and ER staffers, so some operating room and emergency room staffers. With this cross, they could be MDs, medical doctors, and a running event could be a meet. I believe running competitions are often called meets. Office number. Don't know. The most obvious one of these for me would be STE for suite number. Home of the Burj Khalifa for short. The United Arab Emirates, at least with these crosses. Permissive could be lax. Oh, I see. So the office number is an extension, a phone extension. Sorry, I was second guessing meet, so I was trying to think of what else meet could be instead of what else this office number could be. To have a fight could be to argue. A chip in a tube could be Pringle, the cylindrical chip or crisp brand. Irene, who's central to the scandal of a scandal in Bohemia. This is Sherlock Holmes, right? What is that character's name? I think I've only read one Sherlock Holmes story, and it wasn't this one. Ish could be in a way, right? So sometimes you'll say, oh, you know, I was happy to go ish. And the reason I say it that way is because I think this meaning of ish isn't so much a numerical estimate like 40-ish, but as a generalized suffix that's kind of added on to things to indicate lack of certainty or maybe soft pedaling it a bit. Here we have actor Wilson, Owen Wilson. No, certainly not how you spell that. And a knight in shining armor. A hero, I suppose. Here's another theme clue. How famous is that actress? Is she unknown or a big, or is she unknown or famous of some kind? I don't know. Let's move on for now. Jimi in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jimi Hendrix, who lived separated by a couple centuries, but lived for a time here in London next door to the house where the composer, I believe Haydn, lived. And Now there's a combined museum of Haydn and Hendrix that those two addresses have been combined. Okay, actor John, who plays Sulu in Star Trek films, John Cho, novelty brand with the slogan, "Watch it grow." Oh, Chia Pet, perhaps? Boy, that's something I've not seen or heard of for absolutely ages. Palindromic alternative to .exe. So this would be a computer file format, and even if we don't know what that is, because it's palindromic, we could fill it in here. So it's .txt, a text file. And here we have German winter hazard. Oh, ice, which I believe is spelled EIS in German. And then, Irene Adler from Sherlock Holmes. That actually looks right. Oh, is she unknown or A-list? Okay, I'm not surprised I didn't get that. That isn't a way I would use the phrase A-list personally, but it's fair enough, I suppose. So oralist, is that someone who, I don't know, specializes in sort of oral history or spoken history, something like that, maybe? Don't really know. It's a slightly, I'm not entirely getting, I mean, I suppose the theme is just anything that starts with or, but it doesn't seem to need to be one word, because in this case, I think it's two words, and the words don't really share anything in common other than the or. So it's a little bit all over the place, but that's okay. A flu fighter, let's see. A flu fighter could be a shot, as in a vaccination. Boy, that took a while. Valvoline rival. Could that be STP? These are the letters that came up the other day in, I think the clue was simply 500 letters, and it referred to the Indianapolis 500, an auto race, car race, and STP is a motor oil brand, which I think Valvoline might also be. And then here we have hoi polloi. Here we have augment as a musical track. Could be overdub, to record new material on top of the existing material. A work of art. My first thought was pietà, which is a specific category of work of art, but no, I think it's probably simply peace. One's unlikely to enjoy the land of milk and honey. Or sorry, when I say category, I meant sort of subject matter. Okay, one's unlikely to enjoy the land of milk and honey. Oh, it's got a question mark. So it's a bit of wordplay here. So this would be vegans. Wouldn't enjoy milk and honey because they're animal products. Is honey off limits to vegans? I mean, I know it comes from bees, but I don't know enough about how strict veganism is to know whether that in itself makes it off limits, or if it can be sort of harvested in a way that's considered morally acceptable by vegan standards. I don't know. Anyway, Olds of Old. I suspect this is referring to an Oldsmobile car model that is no longer in production, because Oldsmobile in general is no longer in production as a make. But I don't know what this one is. So here we have where to find a lot of lets. What is this? Do I have overdub or vegans incorrect? What is this? Raga, the music, Indian music? That doesn't seem right. Oh, Riga? And then, let me check the crosses, sorry. So it goes, alas, I guess, and olds of old. Sorry, I'm just going to keep checking these crosses to see if I can confirm this whole area. What's the best way to spend less on shopping? Coupons? Okay, well, it's going to have an or at the beginning. Coupons or deals, and that makes a word, or deals. Bobby Gentry's Blank to Billy Joe. Oh, it's got to be ode, right? I've never heard of this thing before, and I was about to just skip it, but then I thought something too, and it's a song title probably. It'll be an ode. It's in a crossword, so it's an ode. Salted part of a margarita glass would be a rim. An envoy's workplace would be an embassy, an envoy to a particular country. And active during the day is diurnal, that's as opposed to nocturnal animals. Crafty is sly, so that actually does all look correct. So here we have, what kind of greens do you want? Spinach or Kale, what would fit here? Spinach or green? Collard greens, what? I don't know. Let's keep looking. Like the king of the jungle. Leonine, maybe? The lion is king of the jungle often, right? And so it says like the king of the jungle, so that makes me think this could be an adjective that describes the king of the jungle as opposed to a noun that the king of the jungle is equivalent to. And so I'm wondering, is it the adjectival form of lion, which is leonine? It could be that. Let's check the crosses. C46 down. And then 46 down is with 64 down, noted trans activist and actress. I suspect with these crosses, this is Laverne Cox. So let's check the crosses. Latin law, lex, that looks right. And here we have, oh, right. What kind of greens do you want? Spinach or chard? As in Swiss chard, or a few other kinds as well whose names I don't recall, but that spells orchard. So there we go. And director Spike Lee, and labor could be travail, perhaps, from the French word for work, travailler. Unedited could be raw, Polynesian crop with medicinal properties. Well, it's not aloe, which doesn't seem Polynesian enough and doesn't fit anyway. But when you see, if this were simply crop with medicinal properties and didn't say Polynesian and also didn't have these crosses, I would definitely assume it to be aloe. Here we have declare, could be aver. And one accepting an Oscar, for instance, could be an awardee. What is it, Kava? Yeah, Blazing Saddles actress Madeline Kahn. Madeline Kahn, an extremely prolific and talented comic actress. So, will that work? Yes, there it goes. Okay, so that was the Wednesday puzzle. That went pretty quickly, all things considered, for a video solve on a Wednesday, I would say. Let's see, were there any particularly tough crosses? I suppose if you didn't know Gal Gadot and Addis Ababa, that could be tough. I don't know. This is quite a long answer, which means there are a lot of opportunities to cross it. So I don't know. I mean, again, Cho and Hendricks, both pretty well-known names, though. Oralist is sort of odd. I don't entirely know what that is. I wonder if it is an oral historian. There were a lot of names in this, actually. Owen Wilson, John Cho, Gal Gadot, Laverne Cox. So there was sort of, I mean, those are all, I guess, current names in entertainment. So I wouldn't really consider that a theme, and it's not part of the theme, but there were quite a few of them. So that was a little streak throughout the puzzle, I suppose. And then the theme, of course, itself, Orlando, oralist, orange red, ordeals, and orchard. I wish orange red. I suppose orange red is arguably a single hyphenated compound adjective or noun, depending on whether you're using it to describe something or as the color itself. But I wish they were all one word. I wish they were all one word because it would make the theme a little bit more consistent. It's a slightly spotty theme, but I will say, in a lot of ways, it did fulfill its function to me for a sort of early to midweek theme, which is that you can get it without too much trouble, and then it does help you sort of put the rest of the puzzle together, as compared to a Thursday theme, which we may see one of these. Well, we definitely will see a Thursday theme tomorrow, but we may see one of the sort to which I'm referring, which is, they tend to be more complex, more ambitious, less helpful, and more intricate, and involve more steps. In this case, pretty straightforward, and once you know it, as soon as you get to one of these theme answers, which can be identified by the type being italicized, you can go ahead and enter or at the beginning of each one, which I suppose I did once I got there. I didn't do the thing people sometimes want me to do, which is to run through the puzzle and insert or in all of the theme answers, but I never remember to do that, so apologies. Anyway, let me know how you fared with this Wednesday puzzle by David W. Tufts. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, and then you can see notifications to let you know when these videos go up each day. And you don't have to watch them every day, but you'll have them there. It'll be easier. And wouldn't that be nice? Things should be easier. And that's one way this can be. And if you think you know someone who might enjoy this, pass it along. Suggest it to a friend or to your online community, whatever that may be. I also have a new Twitter account dedicated just to this YouTube series, and you can find it at The Daily Solve on Twitter. I had been tweeting about this from my personal account, but I realized it was getting sort of ridiculous because the only thing I ever tweeted about anymore were these crossword videos. And so I've made a new Twitter account. You can be one of the, I think there are just a shade over 100 people following it now, so you can get it on the ground floor, whatever that means, following this account on Twitter. And there's a link to it in the description field underneath this video. Another thing to which there's a link in the description field underneath this video is the Patreon account, which, as I mentioned at the beginning of this puzzle, will soon have a poll going up for people in the benefactor tier, and above for that matter, to vote on what they would like their mug to be. I would eventually like to have some kind of merchandise available to anybody who's interested in it on this channel. But for now, I'm focusing on getting that Patreon one designed and out the door for Patreon supporters. And whatever that design ends up being will be exclusive to that tier in recognition for those people's generosity. And then maybe I'll come up with some other sort of mug design going forward. I don't know. We'll have to see. Or some other form of merchandise. If you have any ideas, just let me know. And there are plenty of other benefits of the Patreon, including bonus videos and special access to the Discord server, which, as I said the other day, now also has a dedicated crossword construction channel. So check out the Patreon campaign at patreon.com/dailysolve and the Discord chat server, which is linked in the video, in the description field underneath the video. Finally, regarding the Patreon, I would like to thank a couple of people who have donated at a generous level and are therefore particularly responsible for keeping this whole thing going. And in particular, today, I would like to thank Resmi and, as always, the inestimable Hood Monster. So thank you, Hood Monster. Thank you, Resmi, for your generous support in making this whole series a sustainable enterprise going forward. And let's see. I suppose that's all I have. Boy, that was a big, just whole landslide of things it felt like coming out of my mouth. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you will join me tomorrow for the Thursday puzzle, when we may well get one of those ambitious, intricate themes. I always enjoy figuring those out. Do join me then. But until that point, have an excellent remainder of your Wednesday. Take care.